Shemot's, this is the last portion before we get into Leviticus, isn't it? Or do we have one? No, this is it. And is going to be found in Shemot or Exodus, the 38th chapter. And it is called Pekudei. And let me do a little, what do you call it, groundwork on this text. As we normally say, as I just said earlier, these two portions are normally together in a regular cycle, but because this is a leap year, they separate them out. Where last week's portion deals with the gathering, talking about the unity of the nation of Israel, this portion in particular is a sort of a microscopic look at the details of the building of the Mishkan and the accounting of the people, which normally when you pair these two together, what you would do is have a lesson that would talk about during that week of the portion, that would talk about the unity of the people to come together for one purpose and one cause, and that is to build the Mishkan. And then you would wrap it up with, yes, there is the unity of the people, and Hashem sees Israel as one, right? Sees them as Chad. But you also know that he looks at every individual as if they are their own universe. So not only is there what we consider sort of like the satellite view that God has of his people, but also the very intimate, close view that Hashem has for every individual, and that every person counts. Last week in our portion, we learned of the great effort that took place to build the Mishkan, and the great effort of bringing all of the gold and all of the silver and the special spices and incense and oils and material, wool that was woven and dyed wools, etc. And all of this material came together to build the Mishkan. There was a brief discussion this morning with someone that I know, and we were talking about the state of the world that we live in, and it seems to be so fragmented and so disjointed, and it seems at some level almost every place that you look is confusion, division, no unity at all. And then we thought, well, what would it be like, and what is it going to require to bring about redemption? And redemption is ultimately going to come when his people begins to unify under one purpose. Now, we understand that even though we unify together and we come together, even those in the nations coming together with the Jewish people, that this coming together does not mean that we all look and act and are the same. We are all still individuals. We're all unique. We all have a unique contribution. Nevertheless, we all must contribute that which comes from what? What did the text say last week? Everyone with a willing heart, that they would come and contribute. So part of what we do when we come together on a Torah study class, we're doing our part to rectify the world, to bring about repair in the world, and we are contributing with what little things that we can contribute to bring about the better in our society, in our world. But we're also building a Mishkan. Even though the physical temple has not been built, and if you hadn't had a chance to listen to Rabbi Chaim Richman's, I think it's called Rabbi Richman Unplugged. Has anybody heard that? Mm-hmm. You've got to listen to it. He goes on a 45-minute dialogue about the temple and what the condition of the world is in, and the insult that comes to the Jewish people over the whole idea of the land. It's amazing conversation. One-sided, obviously, because he's making the commentary, but it helped you to realize how difficult it is in the world right now. And even with the difficulty, we have to remember that each one of us play a very important role in bringing about redemption to the world. In chapter 38, verse 21, it starts off and says, "These are the reckonings of the tabernacle." And notice it repeats it again. "The tabernacle of testimony, which were reckoned at Moses' bidding." Now, let's first ask this question, or we should ask this question. Anytime that you see a double emphasis, or sometimes you'll see an emphasis in three forms, there's something very unique about this text. We understand from Rashi that the double mentioning of the Mishkan, the tabernacle, twice in a row represents the two periods of time in which the first temple will be taken and the second temple would be taken. Meaning that it was already predicted in the reckoning of the building of the first temple that there would be a reckoning of the two temples. Now, what do we mean by the reckoning of the two temples? You have sort of double meaning. On the first very open level, the reckoning that it's talking about here is every dime is being accounted for. You guys do project management, or what do you call it?
Project controls.
Project controls, right? So every dime, every line item down to the penny, I guess, is accounted for in the construction of a new facility anywhere in the world. And they hold you to it, right? Well, Moshe is doing this in this text. If you read it, if someone is just kind of doing a quick read through it, it just seems like he's repeating the same thing that he did before. But in this text you see, and it says, "And all the gold that was used for the work, for the holy work, the offered up gold was 29 talents." And he goes through and gives absolute exact account where everything, or where all the gold, or what the exact amounts were. But it's interesting because the concept that the tabernacle is mentioned twice in a row has a very significant purpose. This week, someone sent me an email and asked if I could explain why the second temple was destroyed. And this person comes with a particular Christian worldview about the temple and its reason for its destruction. And I was trying to explain it, but they seem to be a bit sort of stuck on this idea that the temple was, why was it, they kept asking the question, why was it destroyed? And the best way to understand why the temple was destroyed is really found in an amazing story told about the time when the Maccabees had began to fight this incredible battle, and then the taking of the temple, and then later on in 70 AD, when the Romans came in and they tore the temple down. It is said that one rabbi a priest is laughing hysterically, and he thought, how inappropriate, you're laughing at the destruction of the temple. And he says, no, you don't understand. The reason why that I'm laughing, Hashem decided not to destroy us, but instead took the temple. So the concept of the reckoning of the temple, both of them, the first and the second one, is really a very positive thing and a good thing. Because the choice is, do I foreclose on their temple that they built for me, or I destroy them? And we have to understand that the removal of the temple from the physical space is Hashem's way of dealing with mercy on his people. Now we understand that even the second temple, the ark was not even in the second temple, right? So there are avenues, or there are aspects of even the second temple, even though that it was built, was not functioning at its fullest capacity because Hashem was having mercy upon his people. Now, when we talk about the accounting, someone go start reading with verse 24. Well, no. Let's go to verse 22. Somebody read for me.
Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah, made all that the Lord had commanded Moses. Aholiab, son of Achisamach, of the tribe of Dan, was with him. a carver and skillful workman, and an embroiderer in blue, purple dye, and in fine linen.
Okay, stop right there. Bezalel is the great-grandson of Miriam. He was about 13 years old at this time. He was like a child prodigy. He had a very unique connection with Moshe. He understood things before Moshe could explain them in full. It says that, notice it says, did everything that Hashem commanded Moshe. Not everything that Moshe had commanded him. How in the world could this young man have that kind of connection? What did he know? Obviously, this man was endowed with the spirit of Hashem, and with special wisdom that we can't even quite comprehend now. I mean, we've heard about this in our studies of young boys at 7 years old who later become great Torah Chesed scholars, right? Who at 7 years old have completely memorized volumes of ancient text and writing, and is already starting to write their own commentaries. That boggles my mind. Of course, it doesn't take much to boggle my mind, but that is amazing, right? But this man, young man, understood what Hashem commanded Moshe. And here's the example. If you'll remember this a couple of weeks ago, Moshe says, here, build all of the instruments of the tabernacle, and this is how you'll build the ark. And then Bezalel says, well, shouldn't we build the Mishkan first and put all that stuff in it at the end? And Moshe's like, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. You know, it's like he knew this. He figured it out. An amazing guy. Okay, continue on. Verse 24.
All the gold that was used for the work and all the work of the sanctuary, including the gold of the wave offering, was 29 talents and 730 selas of the sanctuary selas. The silver of those of the community who were counted was 100 talents and 1,775 selas of the sanctuary selas. A tikla a head, that is, half a selah, of the sanctuary selas, for each one who passed to be counted from the age of 20 years up, 603,550. The 100 talents of silver were for casting the sockets of the sanctuary and the sockets for the curtains, 100 sockets to the 100 talents, a talent a socket.
Okay, pause right there. Basically, a talent is about 3,000 shekels. Of course, 3,000 shekels, you know, you could go to Google and actually Google out each one of these names, and you could find a close ratio about how much money this is. But this concept that in verse 24 says that it was for all holy work. Well, it seems like just an odd phrase to put in here, because wasn't all of the temple work for holy work? Well, the unique thing here is what it's alluding to is the fact that in any gold work, anytime that you're doing, even making jewelry, there is a certain amount of waste that takes place, correct? In the process of refining the gold and forming it. It seems that whenever they began to do the gold work, and that is wrapping the acacia wood and all the altars, etc., the incense, etc., the menorah, there was no waste. None at all. It was without waste. They had discovered ways of casting these items and beating these items in one piece without wasting them. I don't even understand how they were able to do it, but it was without waste. The silver in Rashi, verse 25 through 28, this passage lists only the silver that was accumulated through the head tax of a half shekel, which was used to count the adult males. The bulk of it was used, as stated in verse 27, to cast the 26 sockets that support the 48 planks of the tabernacle walls and the 4 sockets that supported the 4 pillars that held the partition curtain in front of the Holy of Holies. The remaining silver was used for the accessories needed for the pillars, verse 28. If so, however, where was the silver that was voluntarily contributed? According to one commentary, no other silver was to be contributed because there was no need for it. If you remember, there was this period of time in which so much was being brought in they didn't need it. Rashi holds that silver was contributed and it was used to make the utensils, but that silver is not listed in our passage, perhaps because it was not in a significant amount to even mention it. In verse 25, that maintains, or Hachaim maintains here, as above in verse 25, that the Torah means to stress the miracle that there was absolutely no waste in casting the sockets. 1 talent was allocated for each. Each one weighed exactly a talent, which was finished. So the idea is everything that was contributed was used. I mean, it was as if they had measured it out prior to taking the collection, but it was always enough. One of the things that we have said many times, and we all pretty much kind of will quote this occasionally to someone who feels that they're going through something that is requiring them to give more than what they have, right? Deep within inside of themselves. And we always use this statement, God never asks you to give more than you can handle, right? Or to handle. So this idea is that what they gave was exactly what needed to be given. And what they contributed was exactly what needed to be contributed and contributed and nothing more. Let's go on in verse 29.
The copper of the wave offering came to 70 talents and 2,400 selas. He made of it the sockets for the entrance to the tent of meeting, the copper altar and its copper grating, all the utensils of the altar, the sockets of the court roundabout, the sockets of the gate of the court, all the pegs of the tabernacle, and all the pegs of the enclosure roundabout. Of the blue, purple, and purple dye, they made service garments for serving in the sanctuary. They made service vestments for Aaron, as the Lord had commanded Moses. He made the ephod of gold, blue, purple dye, and fine twined linen. They hammered out sheets of gold. They cut them into threads to work them into the blue, the purple dye, and the fine linen, the work of a skillful workman.
Okay, pause right there. How many has seen the ephod that was produced by the Temple Institute? You've seen it? Okay, one person has. So you've seen it as well?
On the internet.
On the?
You mean in person?
In person.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and on the internet you can look at it. Leslie, didn't you go that time?
But did they show it?
Yes. As a matter of fact,
That sculpture that he had you're talking about?
no, that was the time before that. Rabbi Richmond brought the ephod, the vestment, and it had something like 4.5 kilometers of gold thread in it.
I wouldn't remember that.
Yeah, it was just, yeah, you would have remembered if you'd seen it. It was astounding. And the thing is it wasn't gaudy. I mean, I thought it would have looked gaudy, but the way it was woven with the other thread, it kind of reminded me of a thick, like a thick jacket, a pad. But you most definitely could see the gold thread all the way through it. And the mixture of the gold thread with the turquoise and the purple, all these colors together, gave it sort of a purple hue, or sort of a turquoise, sort of a purple hue. And then on top of that were the inset pieces of stones, mineral stones with the name of each one of the tribes on it. A beautiful piece of artwork. I mean, it's an amazing deal. If you ever get a chance, go on the internet and you can look at it. It's available at templeinstitute.
Was it the original?
No, it was made after the original design. Yes. They made attached shoulder straps for it, attached it to its two ends. The belt which it was emplaced, which was on it, was made from it, of the same workmanship of gold, turquoise, purple, and scarlet wool and linen, twisted as Hashem had commanded Moshe. I want to read something here Rashi has in verse. We'll go ahead and go on. Someone pick up and read the next part.
What verse?
Verse 6.
They made the onyx stones, inserted in frames of gold, engraved with clear script according to the names of the sons of Israel. He set them on the shoulder pieces of the ephod as stones of remembrance for the Israelites, as the Lord commanded Moses. He made the breastplate the work of a skillful workman in the style of the ephod, of gold, blue, purple dye, and fine twined linen. It was square. They made the breastplate doubled, a span in length and a span in width, doubled. They set in it 4 rows of good stones. The first row was a row of carnelian, topaz, and smaragd, one row. The second row, a carbuncle, a sapphire, and an emerald. The third row, a jacinth, an agate, and amethyst. And the fourth row, a beryl, an onyx, and a jasper. They were encircled in their mountings in frames of gold. The stones were according to the names of the sons of Israel, 12 according to their names in clear script. The engraving of a signet, each with its name, for the 12 tribes. They made on the breastplate braided chains of corded work of pure gold. They made 2 frames of gold and 2 rings of gold, and put the 2 rings on the 2 ends of the breastplate. They put.
Okay, let's pause right there. Why repeat this detail at this level? No wasted words in Torah, right? We know that for sure. One of the things that we learn in the building of the Mishkan is that Hashem is the God of order, right? Everything with greatest precision. Attention to detail matters to Hashem. Why? Because in Him there is no imperfection. He's pure. He's holy. In Him, He is complete in Himself. He is all in Himself without needing of assistance from anything else in the world, correct? Everything that makes up the essence of Hashem is complete, pure, and holy, and we can't even conceive at that level of how complete, pure, and holy He is. So what do we have is in the building of the Mishkan, they go down to the absolute minute detail on how everything is to be made, how it's to be formed. And this is just a tip of the iceberg, because we have in Midrashic sources and in the Talmud a vast knowledge of oral information from the oral Torah that talks about how everything is to be placed with such precision. And even as far as measurements with the temple that was built, Solomon's temple, and in the second temple, the details of those, what do you call it, brick and mortar ones, the stone edifices that was built. This detail is very, very important. In our own spiritual life, and we've been talking about this for the longest time, that in our own spiritual life, we are at some level rectifying this destruction of the temple by building up the person that we are, like as if it was our own personal temple, right? We have the 3 components of our body, mind, and soul, and as you pay attention to the details of your life, in mitzvah, in study, as you pay attention to the details, you are drawing down God's divine purpose in your life. It is important to look at the details. You know, we sometimes when you first come to the knowledge of all the mitzvah that are available for a person to do, it can be a bit overwhelming, right? You're like, where do I start? And one of the things that Rabbi Greenbaum and others have so carefully advised us is to do what you can do, but do it at your very best. There's no need to move on to dozens of things that you cannot do. Do what you can do, but do it your best. And we, especially for those people who are coming from the nations to embrace Torah as a B'nai Noach, that person is encouraged to take the 7 laws of Noah and do them with excellence. And then that's not the end, that's just the beginning. But do those 7 with excellence and love for Hashem. Because it is as if you have done all 613 when you do those with the greatest intention and attention to detail. So attention to detail really does matter. I'm not a bean counter. I guess you guys are bean counters. Is that what's considered? I don't know.
Not really.
That kind of, you know, that attention to detail takes an incredible person to do. But none of us really have the right to just throw it off and say, well, I'm not too good on attention to detail. What motivates all of us to have that level of attention to detail? Our love for Hashem. Our deep compassion for the things of God and our deep passion to serve Him. I'm reminded of the text in the prophet Isaiah, who talks about those who serve Hashem. How do we serve Hashem? How do we serve Him? We serve Him by doing mitzvah. By doing the things that we can do. And it's human nature, I think, a lot of times for us to obsess about the things we can't do. Be honest, right? We all kind of think about the things that we cannot do. But Hashem wants you to concentrate on the things that you can do. Think about what you have that is precious for the building of a dwelling place for the presence of Hashem in your life. What is it that you have? Not everybody was capable of bringing dyed wool. Not everyone was capable of bringing some of these precious jewels. Not everyone was capable of bringing gold, but every individual had their part. What do you have that Hashem needs? What is it that you can contribute to the repairing of the universe around us? Some of you guys, it's being the best mom you can be. Mom and dad you can be. All right? For some of you, it's demonstrating compassion and loving kindness to someone that is a stranger. For others, it's a devotion to study of Torah, because not everybody has that great ability. And when you do your part, you are helping to elevate the other ones who can't do that part. All right? And it's very important for us to understand that we should not look down upon ourselves because we don't have that ability that someone else has. Yes, ma'am.
Bob Casuto said, in I think it was December thing, that he was going to go into the field and pray.
Mm-hmm.
And he had called his friend, or his friend had called him just before he left, and his friend said, gee, I wish I was doing that. And, you know, Casuto said that he really wished he was staying in bed. and he said that the man who really wanted to do that, but could not do that, was even in a better place than he going to do that.
That's profound.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's the desire of the heart.
Yes.
And I really do believe that when it comes down to it, most of the people that are in the category of people from the nations. They're not Jewish, but people from the nations. That's their plight in life. They have the deepest desire to do all the commandments, but yet realize that that's not required of them. And they have the deepest desire to do every one of the commandments with as much gusto and, fervor that you possibly can, but you can't. So what does Hashem think about that with you? He thinks that you've done them all. It's because you have done it with the most, what you do is what the highest intention and integrity of Torah. And that is a beautiful place to be in. That is a wonderful place to be, in which every effort that people take in the nations to please Hashem, it's counted at 100%. It's beautiful. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I was reading today that Onkelos was a convert, of course.
Correct.
And that he went way over and above what was necessary, and that he used to even keep the ritual laws of purity that the priests had to keep.
Right.
Just because he had such a desire to please God.
Right.
He just wanted to live such a holy life. So it's not bad doing more than it's required
No.
of you to do.
Of course not. Of course not. That's the whole thing. It's not bad.
But it's not required. It's
It's
not.
not-
It's not. You can't feel. You don't need to feel condemnation if you can.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Listen, that is probably what separates most of the religious world out there from Judaism, and that is where the rest of the religious world would look at your negative aspects as condemning, God's not happy with you, whatever. You have quite the opposite, in which Hashem is pleased, very pleased with the effort that you have. He knows the intention and the heart of man. Now, conversely, we have a situation. You can't be saying, well, I mean well, but you are rebelling against God. All right, you can't do that and think, you might fool everybody in the community, but you're not going to fool Hashem. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't want to mess with the boss, right? Mm-hmm. So the whole idea is that, you with the intention of the heart. But I would say that most of the people in this community, I know you guys, we talk, we spend hours talking about it. And what is it that you constantly are mentioning? You would, you wish, what am I obligated to do? And what am I supposed to do? And can I do more? Am I limited on what I can do? And just the very dialogue and conversation that you are having has got to be so pleasing to the Creator. I mean, can you imagine how pleasing that is? When a community of people are talking about everything they could possibly do to serve Hashem. Everything we could possibly do. It's beautiful. This concludes the class, and we will do question and answers period of the class. So everyone say shalom.
Shalom.